Hare Krishna, Vanchakalpatrubhyascha, Kripasindubhyevacha, Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So, we're welcoming you back to our continuation of reading and studying Srimad Bhagavatam. We started over again, Canto 1, Chapter 1, the questions by the sages. And we did up to text 8 last time, but what I'm going to do is we'll study text 8, and then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur does 7 and 8 together as a group and has a single purport to both of them, so we'll go back to 7 a little bit like that, and then keep on going on. Well, then we'll get to the next section, which is from text 9 to the end of the chapter, which are the questions by the sages. 6 questions with elaborations which are put forth or posed in 15 verses. Okay, so we'll I'll read 7 and then we'll do 8, and then we'll go back and look at the Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's different way of doing it. So first we'll say this: Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, just to remind you, text 7, I'll read the Sanskrit first also. Yani Veda Vidam Shreshto Bhagavan Badarayana Anyecha Munnaya Sutta Paravara Vido Vidu. Being the eldest learned Vedantist, O Sutta Goswami, you are acquainted with the knowledge of Vyasadeva, who is the incarnation of Godhead, and you also know other sages who are fully versed in all kinds of physical and metaphysical knowledge. You can just take that to mean mundane and transcendental. We had some discussion with that. So now, text 8, we'll read Prabhupada's purport and then go back and do the two of them together. Text 8 goes like this: Veta tvam somya tat sarvam tattvatas tad anugrahat bruyas snigdasya shishyasya guravo guhyamapyuta. And because you are submissive, your spiritual masters have endowed you with all the favors, in plural, favors, bestowed upon a gentle disciple. Therefore, you can tell us all that you have scientifically learned from them. So they address him very formally, that your honor, Tvam, is a kind of honorific way of addressing somebody. I think it's like a plural form that's used. And then they use this term for him, address him as Somya, which they say, in the word for word, Prabhupada says, one who is pure and simple. What Somya means, and maybe in the running translation, just gentle. Somya means resembling the moon, Soma. That means it's placid, gentle, mild, those qualities of the moon. And this is in the vocative. So the dictionary gives these translations: O gentle sir, O good sir, O excellent man. So it's very respectful, but it's praising them. And they said, as the proper mode of addressing a brahmana. So this is that Somya would have been recognized by everybody as a respectful way and very proper way of addressing a brahmana. So then Prabhupada says, his purport, to me this is a very famous line. The secret of success in spiritual life is in satisfying the spiritual master and thereby getting his sincere blessings. I mean, this is kind of interesting in the beginning because remember, Prabhupada is coming in to us as a teacher, and it's a different kind of teacher than we've ever had. And it's the old way of it used to be in the olden days, any teacher was respected kind of like that. The disciple-spiritual master relationship is really teacher-student relationship when they're properly done. Because sometimes a teacher, if they're stimulated by the interest and respectful learning, eagerness to learn and interest of a student, will then start to say things kind of spontaneously that you wouldn't hear from them otherwise. Because they're stimulated by the interest in somebody absorbing what they've done, and they'll come up with things they didn't even know how to express until they had such an audience. This is a fact, of a real teacher-student relationship. Anyway, so this, what we call disciple-teacher, disciple-spiritual master relationship, is really the real form of a student and a teacher of any kind. And a guru simply means a teacher. I mean, you can have a guru that teaches you how to ride horses, shoot a bow, act in a play. They're all gurus. Anyway, let me go on. The secret of success in spiritual life is in satisfying the spiritual master and thereby getting his sincere blessings. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has sung in his famous 8 stanzas on the spiritual master as follows: I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master. Only by his satisfaction can one please this personality of Godhead, and when he is dissatisfied, there is only havoc on the path of spiritual realization. You know that song, Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasado, Yasya Prasada Nagati Gutopi. Without, nobody goes anywhere without the blessings. Nagati Gutopi. Prabhupada goes on, it is essential, therefore, that a disciple be very much obedient and submissive to the bona fide spiritual master. Srila Sutta Goswami fulfilled all these requirements, all these qualifications as a disciple, and therefore he was endowed with all favors by his learned and self-realized spiritual masters such as Srila Vyasadeva and others. The sages of Naimisharanya were confident that Srila Sutta Goswami was bona fide. Therefore, they were anxious to hear from him. So that's their eagerness stated there in text 8. So now let me go back and read the translation by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur of 7 and 8 together. And he has a really different take on another way of translating the 8. Anyway, it goes like this. O Sutta Goswami, because you are submissive, by the mercy of the Gurus, you know all matters in truth, which the Supreme Lord Vyasa, best among knowers, Vedavidam Shreshtaha, best among knowers, and other sages who know Brahman with and without qualities, have understood. The Gurus should speak the secret to the disciple who has affection for the Gurus. So that's his way of establishing this relationship. So there's secrets, probably confidential, more confidential, most confidential. And Prabhupada says that confidential means not everyone will appreciate it. And you know, there's a saying, is it from the Bible, or you should not cast pearls before swine? Yeah, it's from the Bible. Or there's more to it. Give what is holy unto dogs. That's the whole quote. So if you're not the right person, it shouldn't be done. So he says here, this Veda Vidam, this is a commentary, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur. Vidam refers to persons who know. Paravaravida means persons who know both Brahman with qualities and without qualities. Now, we get from Prabhupada a different idea of that paravara, different ways of understanding it. So here's his way, Brahman with qualities and without qualities. There's two kinds of Brahman, right? Both are Brahman. The impersonal Brahman is Brahman, and Krishna's Parabrahman. So those both kinds of. Anyway, it goes on. Gurus should speak the secret to the disciple who has affection, snigdasya. Snigda is the word for affection. It means sticky, actually. Slick, you guy clings together. Who has affection for the Gurus. This is in the potential. I think he's referring to a grammatical form there, the potential, and I'm not sure the meaning of that translation. I think that's what he's talking about, the grammatical. And thus expresses the following idea. Since you were a disciple having affection for your Gurus, they must certainly have revealed the secret to you, and you must have understood all those confidential subjects. You must have. So that must be what's meant by the potential. Yeah. While rejecting sages who extract their own ideas from all these confidential topics and then speak, we are asking you, the speaker of all authorized doctrines, about these subjects. That's kind of a nice purport there, huh? And again, it talks about this idea of affection. So that's his take on both 7 and 8 together. And then on 9 he says, well, okay, so 9 now from 9 through 23, which is the end of the chapter. They're going to be the questions by the sages to Sutta Goswami. This is posed in all these verses, 15 verses, but there's 6 questions. And for those of you who like esoteric knowledge, here's a list of those 6 questions that's been that Shraddha Devi has compiled based on she wants to based on Burijan Prabhu's analysis, and so he says these are the 6 questions, and I'll just go through them here just to give you a preview of coming attractions.
I put them on Facebook.
Shraddha says she's put them on Facebook. What is the absolute and ultimate good, the Shreya, for the people in general? That's in 9. What is the essence of all scriptures? That's in 11. Tell why Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appeared. That's 12. Tell of the acts the Lord performed in relationship to creating the material world. That's in 17. Describe the activities of the incarnations of the Lord. That's 18. And then on 23, where have religious principles gone after Krishna's disappearance from the planet? Remember, that's the last big event that's happened. Krishna has disappeared, and so now they're trying to know, how do we go on after this, after the disappearance of Krishna? So what she's Shraddha's done is she also tells the answers to these questions in a short form on this, and give the verses where the answers are there. So the first question we're going to deal with today: what is the absolute and ultimate good, Shreya, for all people in general? And the response comes from text 6 and 7 primarily, and there's some additional more on text 27. The basic response is, after describing the devotional service to Sri Krishna, describing that devotional service to Krishna was the essence of scriptures, Sutta Goswami explains that the ultimate benefit for the people in general is to become free from material bondage and to develop love of God through devotional service offered only to Krishna or to his plenary parts. The first of their 6 questions is now in 9. This is what they ask. Tatra tatranjasayushman bhavata yad vinishchitam pumsam ekantaka shreyas tannat samshittum arasi. Please, therefore, being blessed with many years, explain to us in an easily understandable way what you have ascertained to be the absolute and ultimate good for the people in general. He said, this is tatra tatra, therefore thereof, of that. I guess the repetition is for emphasis, of that. And then they say, anjasa, made easy. That's Prabhupada's translation. The word anjasa, without the long A anyway, means straight or straightforward or honest. Or with the long A, it's an indeclinable word. It's like a straight on, right, truly, justly, sock it to me, sock it to me, sock it. I don't know. Something like, really just hand it over. This. So Prabhupada says, made easy, make it as accessible to us. And he's described as Ayushma, having long life. Like Ayurveda, Ayu is a long life. So Ayurveda is the science of long life, medical science. So he has blessed with many years, he says. When Prabhupada says Bhagavata, by your good self, this is a polite form of the second person. Just like when the Queen of England speaks of herself, she says we, the royal we, so that the plurals are sometimes used in special formal ways. So here it is addressing them as your good self. Whatever you have vinishchitam, ascertained. And then pumsa is it means a human being. And here Prabhupada says the people in general, for everybody. Ekantakaha, absolutely. Ekantika, in the dictionary, is devoted to one aim or object or person or theory. So that's meaning, what is, primarily and mostly and most important thing, Shreya. Prabhupada has told us that these two words, Shreya and Preya, Preya is a temporary advantage and Shreya is a permanent benefit. So when they say Shreya, the ultimate good, and please, in the polite way, RSC, explain us to this. Now, Prabhupada has a purport to this, and here's where I wasted a lot of time, because I was using the Veda-based Bhagavatam to do this, so I could easily transfer chunks of stuff. And then I saw that I had written down in my notes that the first sentence in the purport is, in the Bhagavad Gita, worship of the Acharya is recommended. But then when I was looking on the electronic edition, that wasn't there. And where did I get that from? And I searched around, and I just found out that somehow this is the first sentence of the purport, and it was somehow overlooked when they, I assume accidentally, put this on this electronic form, at least in the database.
Database software.
Software?
Not the website.
Not the website, yeah, the one that's on my computer, not the one that's on the website.
The website has it.
The website has it, okay. So the purport, Prabhupada's purport, so anyway, I was looking around, where was it? And then I did a search on my computer version of the database, and it showed up being quoted, but I couldn't find it. Anyway. So that killed a few hours, not that much, but a little bit. Here's Prabhupada's purport. I'm reading from the hardcover edition here. In Bhagavad Gita, worship of the Acharya is recommended. So here he's dealing with the fact that now the Acharya is Sutta Goswami. In Bhagavad Gita, worship of the Acharya is recommended. The Acharyas and the Goswamis are always well-wishers for the general public. They are especially spiritual well-wishers. Spiritual well-being is automatically followed by material well-being. That's one to engrave in a number of places. People who are seeking material well-being, people who are seeking material well-being while ignoring spiritual well-being will be frustrated again and again by their attempts, guaranteed. But if you deal with spiritual well-being, automatically material well-being will follow. So that's what he says. Spiritual well-being is automatically followed by material well-being. And even in Vedic cosmology, subtle things are more powerful than gross. And spirit is more powerful than matter. Matter has mental forms which are more powerful. I mean, the devas all have bodies made of minds. You know, that's why they can, you know, they form the nervous system of the universe, of the cosmos rather. Anyway, so spiritual well-being is automatically followed by material well-being. So Prabhupada is giving us spiritual well-being. When they have material well-being, look how they screw it up. Anyway, we go on. The Acharyas, therefore, give directions in spiritual well-being for the people in general, not just an exclusive few, but for everybody. Foreseeing the incompetencies of the people in this age of Kali, or the iron age of quarrel, the sages requested that Sutta Goswami give a summary of all revealed scriptures, because the people of this age are condemned in every respect. The sages, therefore, inquired of the absolute good, which is the ultimate good for the people. The condemned state of affairs of the people of this age is described as follows. So then they're going to point out how bad it is and getting worse and worse as we go on. So this is Prabhupada's purport to this interesting verse here. In that sentence where Prabhupada says in the Bhagavad Gita, worship of the Acharya is recommended, it is listed, this is where in the Bhagavad Gita this occurs, in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 13, text 8 through 12, there's a list of the elements of knowledge. Everything that coming together constitutes knowledge. And so Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita purport to this list that's given in 13, 8 through 12, he says, the principle of accepting a spiritual master, as mentioned in the 8th verse, is essential, even for one who takes to devotional service. That is, you're into it, naturally. It is most important. You can't just, do it yourself just because you're an enthusiast. Transcendental life begins when one accepts a bona fide spiritual master The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, clearly states here that in Bhagavad Gita 13:8 that this process of knowledge is the actual path. Anything speculated beyond this is nonsense. This is important because we have all kinds in this country and religious institutions, and then we have institutions of knowledge. And so the presentation in the Harvard, Princeton, Yale, and all those kind of places is that here we have knowledge, and over there they have faith. But here we are getting rid of that dichotomy. First of all processes of knowledge begin in faith. You go into a class in a university, and you sit down, or a good high school even, you sit down, and somebody stands in front of you, and they start talking about all these invisible things. Atoms, neutrons, protons. No, you can't see them. They're by principle, they're invisible. And covalent bonds and all this esoteric stuff. You don't know what it is, you know. I took a course in philosophy of science, and these people who were, philosophers of science called protons, electrons, and neutrons metaphysical entities because they're just theoretical. Really, they're just mathematics. You don't know what's there. They'll let you know that anyway, but this is knowledge, and you accept it on faith because they can do things with it. It works some of the times. But that's what happens. You sit there and you write it down. You put it in your notebook. You examine on it. So, and if you write away, how are we supposed to know this is true? Well, we have experiments to prove it. Oh, can I do that experiment? We don't let anybody near that equipment until their third year of graduate school. You just have to have faith until you get there. Like that, So this faith so don't think we're being, we're religion and there have knowledge. This is knowledge. And moreover, if you take the steps and do it properly, you can see for yourself. That's why Prabhupada says things like science of self-realization. It's a science because under proper direction, following the proper procedures, you will not only see yourself as a spiritual entity and experience yourself as a spiritual entity, but you also, not just the soul, but who's very close to the soul is the super soul. You're together, you're glued together. The super soul, how intimate is the super soul? The super soul is the self of the self. Can you doubt your own existence? Try it. Who's doubting, right? In the same way, once you have some experience of the super self, you can no more doubt that existence than you can your own. So, pratyaksha avagamam dharmam. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, it gives us pratyaksha. The word pratyaksha, etymologically, in front of the eyes, direct perception of the self by experience. When Prabhupada says realized knowledge, he means it's by your experience. And you can do it, and if you follow the rules, it's duplicatable. You can ascertain it for yourself. If you don't believe it, just do it. Entry level 4 regular principles. Those are principles of knowledge. Don't think of them as simply moral principles. It's not just to make you pious. It's to make you knowledgeable too. All those things. And happy. All of those things. Okay, that's the first of their questions. Now here's Banuswami's translation, O long-lived sage. So they address him as long-lived. You should tell us at once, in easy terms, he does it this way, and thoroughly, the highest object for mankind that you have discerned in all the scriptures. So the commentary, and I'm not quite sure what, this is in quotation marks, then I will speak all things. And so he's going to do that, I guess. They reply with this verse, saying which conclusions they want to hear among all the conclusions of Scripture. So they want to know the highest things that you've discerned. Tell us, they said, thoroughly and easy. That's, O long-lived sage, this indicates that he studied and deliberated on scriptures for a long time. So the being old is, used to be known as wise. But tell us completely this ekantataha, or from the beginning. And he says in parentheses, the ablative senses from one end. Concerning the highest goal of mankind that you discerned from looking at all the scriptures, tatra, this one and that one, in statements, and you should express this in statements that can be understood at once, anjasa. Shreya, we discussed that already, means that to which there is nothing greater, that which has no equal, and that which is not included in something else when comparing degrees of excellence. So that's, you want to know the definition of Shreya, that it's nothing greater, has no equal, and then if there's something else that people are comparing and it's not included, then this is even better. Later in the work, it will be revealed that this highest goal is prema, not swarga or liberation, because prema brings even Bhagavan under control. So generally, the people who are following the Vedas, they have goals. One is swarga, the planets of the enjoying gods, which are described, the flowery language of the Vedas tells you about the apsaras and the, beautiful people and just the greatest, nicest people with really good singing, really good musicians. It's like but all in the mode of goodness. Somehow or other it's like extreme sense gratification, but all in the mode of goodness. Or almost, but not pure goodness, just goodness. So that's swarga, or higher, which should tell you about these, reject the flowery words of the Vedas, which delude you with these, liberation, moksha. But higher than those two is prema, because it brings even the Lord himself under control. Krishna is prema vasyaha, controlled by the love that his devotees have for him. He becomes submissive to that. Among the forms of Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. Bhagavan is the chief form. So that's the highest thing there, the absolute and ultimate good for all people in general. So now, do we have time to go more? We have 5 minutes. Well, we'll get a little bit of a start here. The next verse is now not a question. It sets it up for a question. Prayena alpa ayusha shabja prayena alpa ayushaha sabya kalavasmin yuge janaha manda sumanda matayo manda bhagya hupadruta. So it's referring to the people, Kalau, in the age of Kali. Herein, Asmin, Yuge, Jana, the public, it says here in the word for word, means people in general. Prayena, always, almost always, Prayena, Ulpa Ayushaha, their duration of life is meager. They've already extolled Sutta because he has a long life. Here, the Ayusha, the duration of life, is meager. And the people are described as manda, and the word for word, lazy. Sumanda matayaha, misguided. Manda bhagya, unlucky. And he, and above all, upadutta, disturbed. Above all, always disturbed. They are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. This word manda lots of this in the dictionary. Slow, tardy, moving slowly or softly, loitering, idle, lazy, idle, sluggish, apathetic, phlegmatic, like phlegm, weak, slight, slack, like a bow string, dull, faint, feeble, and so on, dull-witted, stupid, foolish, unhappy, miserable, and even addicted to intoxication. That's manda. And then sumanda, very slow. Sumanda buddhi is dull-witted and so on. So this is their situation here. So I think we just have a couple of minutes, so we'll stop here. We'll go and pick up where we left with this. I just wanted to give you a little idea of what they see is the problem. And they're concerned. What do we do to help these people? They have this sense of responsibility for others. They're broad-minded and they want to help humanity. They could be themselves perfectly happy for themselves and by themselves, and let everybody else just go off the deep end, but they don't want to do that. So that's very responsible. These sages, what to do now, and how can we help them? So we should be thankful that they have done that way. Yeah, and we'll read the purport next time.
For those of you on Facebook, go ahead and type in your question into the comment section there, and I will read it out loud. Those of you on the phone, you can press *6 and that will unmute yourself and put you in the queue for asking a question. And everybody's also welcome to use the chat box on Ravindra Svarupa's website. That's RSDasa.com. And I just want to make a quick announcement also before we get into questions, is that we're now getting all of these lectures in audio form up on SoundCloud or whatever podcasting system is your preference. And I'll put in the link into the Facebook chat box, but it's if you go to SoundCloud, it's RSD Sangha. Just search for RSD Sangha and you'll get these lectures plus many, many others. And to start us off, one second here. Ramananda Prabhu asks, he says, I heard on at least one lecture Srila Prabhupada describe any guru or teacher as spiritual master. For example, Srila Prabhupada told the story of Bhishma fighting with his spiritual master, Parashurama, because Bhishma refused to marry Amba, and there's a question mark, Amba. At the end of the story, Prabhupada chuckles. He defeated his spiritual master, and his spiritual master blessed him, quote, you remain brahmachari. Isn't it unusual for Srila Prabhupada to call any teacher a, quote, spiritual master? Or might that just be a slip of the tongue? Prabhupada could not have literally mean every guru is a spiritual master, isn't it?
I think he was using guru as a general term for a teacher. And they're not always teachers of spiritual life. I mean, they are, whatever you're teaching, you're a guru. And so guru is just, spiritual master is kind of a conventional way of saying that one is a teacher. But all the different arts and sciences have their gurus. And there is a kind of relationship in Vedic culture between teachers of any kind. If you even read about Lord Chaitanya in his student days, and he was a teacher, there's a way you respected your teacher of grammar, you know. In fact, Lord Chaitanya was trained to be a teacher of grammar himself, and he had his teacher. And you treat your teacher with a great deal of respect because it's a teacher. So I just think that's what it means. If you just say a teacher in today's context, people will say, "Oh yeah, that bum," or whatever. You know, they people are not taught respect for teachers. Although, you know, at least up until, you know, the 60s or 70s, they used to have some ingrained idea that you should respect your teachers, but that seems to have gone out the window. Anyway, that's my take on that.
Vijay Krishna Prabhu asks, this is related to 118, where I find the synonym guyam, secret. In Bhagavata as it is, 10:38, Krishna chants to Arjuna that of secret things he is silence. My question is, how beneficial is for a practitioner of Bhakti Yoga to keep secrets?
In the Bible, there is a verse, you should not cast pearls before swine or give what is holy to dogs. So when Prabhupada says something is confidential or secret, he also means that not everybody will be able to appreciate it. So you have to be careful that the persons that you're teaching or revealing things to are somebody who are qualified. That's my understanding of what that means, and that's what makes it confidential.
Vijay Krishna Prabhu also asks, also related to 118, where I find the translation saying, quote, have endowed you with all the favors bestowed upon a gentle disciple. My question is, what favors?
The favor to be able to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the favor. That's a big favor. And in all favors, there must be some other good things too, like, I don't know, good association and a chance to do some service, which is a really big favor, that you're able to speak with authority on things. And so that ability, at least as someone who's a Brahmana himself, he wants to be able to teach others and guide others and give knowledge to others and help them and bring upon them the blessings of all so many sages and saintly persons.
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu asks, he says, please accept my humble obeisances. Question, are we less fortunate that we are hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam after the departure of Lord Krishna to his abode? Consider that we must have failed in a previous life to achieve Krishna Prema.
I don't quite understand. I'm sorry.
I'll repeat it. It says, are we less fortunate that we are hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam after the departure of Lord Krishna to his abode? Considering that we must have failed in a previous life to achieve Krishna Prema.
Not just one previous life, probably a whole lot of Krishna previous lives have failed to achieve Krishna Prema. You know, who knows where we were when Krishna was here? You may have spent quite a few years as various insects, for example. Who knows? You know. Nor does he know what maybe a Gyata Sukriti, unknown devotional service. You got some favor. You know, if you just do an ordinarily good deed, you know, somebody's on the side of the road and they have a flat tire and you pull over and help them because you're just a decent person, and that person happens to be a devotee, you get something more than just the pious credit. You get some devotional service. So that may also be how we maybe got to this point.
Vijay Krishna Prabhu asks, related to the 6 questions of the sages, the response to the 3rd question is, quote, to reclaim those in the mode of pure goodness. My question is, who are these people?
We'll find out. Stay tuned.
Bhakti Paula asks, she says, it's interesting to hear that even wise people can read their own interpretations into the scriptures. How can we avoid doing this and be sure we represent what we've learned purely, without mixing in our own stuff? How do we distinguish between our own stuff and genuine realizations?
Well, there ought to be an objective way to do that. I mean, you have Prabhupada's realizations, you have his descriptions of them, and I mean, the word represent means to present all over again. So those people who, we don't have access to Prabhupada right now, but there are other people who properly represent Srila Prabhupada, and they can be misrepresented too. And generally, when Prabhupada is being misrepresented, there's some overt or covert deviance or selfishness that stops it, stops one from actually being a proper representative. And or the thing is too, sometimes people have unacknowledged selfish motives in their thing, and they don't even admit it to themselves that the motive is selfish. I've been around long enough to see so many people do so many things like that. And one of the things that really stifles a lot of people's spiritual life is just personal ambition. To advance in spiritual life may be more difficult, but easier if I can do politics and get a position in the movement or something like that. And you substitute some kind of minor for major virtues, or use some kind of cunning skill to tell yourself, you're not even being honest with yourself, what to speak of with other people about what you're actually doing. That kind of advancement ends very badly, not just for other people, but also for yourself. I mean, really, as one advances in Krishna consciousness, paradoxically, one understands that I'm not advanced at all. I mean, humility increases with spiritual advancement, and that's very, very hard for people to understand. And the reason why people seek out humility, advanced devotees seek out humility, is that when humility increases, attachment and love for Krishna increases, and Krishna can use you in his service. And that's very nice to know that you're being used by Krishna.
Ekendra Prabhu asks, he says, thank you for class. My question is in regard to the statement, the secret of success in spiritual life is in satisfying the spiritual master and thereby getting his sincere blessings. How does one know if he is satisfying the spiritual master?
One way is to ask. And you can ask other people too, not just the spiritual master, because the spiritual master may not want to say something heavy, or but as a general rule, we should be increasing our advancement in Krishna consciousness. We should see that the modes of passion and the modes of ignorance are decreasing. And any time we make a change, we should try to see, while we are increasing our service. I got some good advice early on when I was a devotee, that you should always increase your service and never decrease it. And so if you have to stop doing one thing, whatever else you substitute for that should be an increase. Maybe an increase in a different arena or something like that, but it increases your engagement in Krishna's service. And you may find that the service you had, you're not seem to be making much advancement in that service. And anyway, you should see what else maybe I can do something for. So whatever you do, it should be an increase.
Just a few comments. We have Gaura Shakti Prabhu says, thank you so much for a wonderful class, Gurudev. Hare Krishna. Bhakti Impala says, wonderful response. Thank you, Maharaj. And we have Mandaleshwari Devidasi says, Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you so much. And Tulsi Priya says, Hari, with an exclamation point. I think that's it.
Okay. All right, we'll pick up there where we left off, and yeah, keep on going with this nice lessons for the age of Kali, which we may notice is acting up. So let's see what happens next, and we'll keep on going. And I'm glad we could have some Sangha together in spite of social distancing and all that.